Welcome to the deep dive. If your work touches the federal government, you definitely know the alphabet soup. CUI, FCI, DFARS, NIST, CMMC. It's more than just jargon, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's this whole stack of regulations, and they dictate exactly how you're supposed to secure some really sensitive, unclassified information for the nation.
And I think for a lot of organizations, that stack can feel less like a clear system and maybe more like a confusing maze.
That's putting it mildly, yeah. Trying to figure out which rules apply and when they kick in.
Yeah.
It can be incredibly daunting. And, getting it wrong could mean losing contracts, big stakes.
Exactly, which is why we're here today. Our mission really is to cut through all that hierarchy and jargon.
Mm-hmm.
We want to give you the definitive blueprint for federal cybersecurity compliance. Think of it like this. Imagine these rules are a series of increasingly secure fences built around critical data.
Concentric fences, yeah.
Yeah, concentric fences. We start with the basic perimeter, maybe like a chain link fence, and we work our way up to, I don't know, the nuclear bunker level.
That's a perfect analogy, actually, because our source material really confirms it's this layered approach. It starts way up high with foundational government policy, the executive orders.
Right.
Then it moves to these broader federal regulations, and eventually it lands on the really specific technical stuff. Things found in NIST special publications and those critical contract clauses, mainly DFARS.
Okay, let's start unpacking this then. Section 1. You can't protect something if you don't know what it is. So what exactly is CUI, controlled unclassified information, and who actually sets the rules for everyone?
Right. We have to start at the policy origin. And that takes us back to 2010, Executive Order 13556.
Okay.
This was really the foundational moment. It established the government-wide CUI program. Before 2010, it was, chaos.
Chaos. How so?
Every single federal agency had its own system for sensitive but unclassified info. Think for official use only, sensitive but unclassified, dozens of markings. The EO basically said, stop this madness, let's standardize CUI handling. And crucially, it wiped away all those old agency-specific systems.
Okay, so AO 13556 says, standardize this mess. Who got the job? Who became the chief librarian for this huge CUI effort?
That job fell to the National Archives, NARA.
Uh-huh.
Specifically, their Information Security Oversight Office, or ISO.
ISO, okay.
ARA was officially designated as the executive agent for the entire CUI program. They are the authoritative source, period.
So an ARA gets the mandate, but where's the actual rule book? The regulation that says, okay, here's how you define CUI, how you mark it, how you safeguard it.
That would be 32 CFR Part 2002.
Mm-hmm.
That regulation came out in 2016. It's the actual implementation of the 2010 executive order.
Gotcha.
So if NARA is the librarian, like you said, this regulation is the official card catalog. It establishes the CUI registry that's the master list of all CUI categories and subcategories, and it sets out the government-wide rules. Marking, safeguarding, how you share it, how you decontrol it, everything for the whole executive branch.
That's a really key distinction for everyone listening. And NARA defines the data for everybody. Now, what about the Department of Defense? They operate in their own huge world of information, right?
They do, and they definitely have their own internal procedures for handling CUI. That's laid out in Duty I 5200.48, which came out in 2020.
Okay, Duty I 5200.48.
Right. This instruction sets the DoD's specific policy, how they identify CUI, mark it, safeguard it within the DoD. It assigns roles, too, like the DoD CUI senior agency official. But here's the really crucial nuance you need to catch.
What's that?
The DoDI references the official NARA CUI registry. It doesn't create its own separate DoD CUI list. It's basically DoD's internal handbook for how to follow NARA's government-wide rules.
Perfect. Okay, so the policy's set, definitions are clear thanks to NARA. Now let's shift gears. We move from what the government tells itself to do to the rules that actually bind contractors, people like you're listening.
Exactly. We're moving down from that high-level policy layer to the contract layer. And that means we need to talk about 48 CFR.
48 CFR, that's the FAR, right? Federal Acquisition Regulation.
That's the one.
Yeah.
And its key supplement for the DoD, which is the DFARS, the Defense Federal Acquisition Regulation Supplement. This whole framework, 48 CFR, it's basically the rule book for federal contracting. Been around since, 1984?
Right. And this is where that concentric fences analogy really starts to pay off, isn't it? Because contractors face basically two distinct levels of security requirements. It all depends on the type of data they're holding.
Exactly. 2 levels.
Let's start with level 1, the basic perimeter fence. This one is about protecting federal contract information, or FCI.
Okay, so FCI protection, this is covered by a specific FER clause. FER 52.20421. That came into effect in 2016.
And who does this apply to?
Pretty much everyone. If you hold any non-public information the government provides to you or that you generate for the government under a contract that's FCI, if you have that, you have to meet this basic level. It requires, well, basic safeguarding in your non-federal systems.
What does that basic sense actually look like in practice? It's not the big, scary 110 control list, is it?
No, definitely not. It's much more focused. The FR clause itself, the actual text, only lists 15 specific self-contained security requirements.
Only 15? Like what?
Think basics. Access control, making sure you know who your system users are, physically protecting devices, media protection, that kind of thing. Now, here's a point of potential confusion.
Okay.
While those 15 FIR controls map almost perfectly to the 17 practices required for CMMC Level 1 assessment purposes.
Oh, wait, hold on. This sounds really important for our audience. Even if CMMC Level 1 assessment looks at 17 practices, what are contractors legally obligated to comply with right now under just the FR?
Legally, you comply with the text of FIR 52.20421. That's it.
Just the 15 requirements listed there?
Just the 15. The FAR clause does not legally invoke or reference the big NIST SP 800-171 standard. That is a huge, huge distinction.
Why is that so huge?
Think about it. A small contractor only needs to show they meet those 15 specific requirements written in the FR text. That saves an immense amount of time and effort on audits and documentation compared to tackling all 110 controls and 800-171. It's a much lower bar.
Wow. Okay, that clarity alone is incredibly valuable. So we've secured the basic perimeter fence for FCI. Now, let's step up. Let's move past FCI to level 2, what you called the CUI main gate. This is where things get serious, right? The requirements jump massively.
Exponentially is probably the right word, from 15 controls up to 110.
And what triggers this huge jump?
The presence of CUI. If your contract involves controlled unclassified information, then a different clause kicks in. It's DFARS 252.204702. This one was implemented in 2017.
DFAR 7012. Okay.
This DoD-specific clause mandates safeguarding something called covered defense information, which includes CUI and also requires cyber incident reporting.
So DFAR 7012 is the contractual hook that pulls in the really big standard, the big checklist, which is NIST SP 800-171.
Precisely. That standard, currently revision 2 from back in 2020, lays out 110 specific security practices or controls that you need to implement in your non-federal information systems.
And we're not talking basic stuff anymore.
No way. We're talking comprehensive configuration management, robust incident response capabilities, advanced audit log review, system monitoring, personnel security, the whole 9 yards. It really transforms your security posture from those basic safeguards to, frankly, enterprise-grade security.
Now, here's something I know catches people out. The NIST standard, 800-171, gives you the technical controls. But the DFARS contract clause adds a critical when that NIST itself doesn't dictate.
Ah, you're talking about the 72-hour rule. That's a big one.
Exactly. Tell us about that.
The DFAR 7012 clause explicitly mandates that if a contractor experiences a cyber incident affecting CUI or the systems it resides on, they must report it to the DoD, specifically through the DeepNet portal, within 72 hours of discovering it.
72 hours. That's fast.
It's an aggressive timeline, and that requirement comes directly from the DFARS clause, not from NIST 80171. It's a purely contractual obligation. That's a critical memory hook for any contractor handling CUI. Miss that deadline, and you're in breach of contract.
And we can't forget about the supply chain, right? If I'm a prime contractor, I've got my 7012 compliance sorted out. I'm meeting all 110 controls, but then I need to send some CUI down to one of my subcontractors. What happens then?
Good question. The requirement flows down. DFARS 7312 explicitly requires prime contractors to flow down the entire clause, including the need to implement all 110 NIST 800-171 controls to any subcontractor who will handle CUI.
So the sub has to be compliant, too.
They have to be. The government, especially DoD, relies heavily on this flow-down mechanism. They understand the defense industrial base, the DIB, is really only as secure as its weakest link. Everyone handling the data needs to protect it properly.
Okay, so we know the rules now. FAR for FCI, DFAR 7012, and NIST 800-171 for CUI. But Section 3 is all about, well, checking the homework, enforcement. We've built the main gate. How does the DoD actually inspect it? This brings us to accountability and the rollout of CMMC.
Right. For a while, compliance with 7012 was largely based on self-attestation. Contractors said, yes, we're doing it, but the DoD needed a better way to actually verify that.
They needed proof.
Exactly. Proof, which led to 2 key assessment clauses. both put into DFARS contracts around late 2020. Those are DFARS 242.04, 701.9, and NASH 7020.
Okay, let's break those down. 7019, that's the one that forces contractors to sort of show their cards, right? Be transparent.
It is. DFARS 7019 requires contractors to perform a self-assessment against the 110 NIST 800-171 controls, calculate a score based on that assessment using DoD's methodology, and then post that score into the government's Supplier Performance Risk System, or SPRS.
SPRS. So the government gets a score for each contractor.
Basically, yes. It gives the government, at least in theory, a single pane of glass to see the overall cybersecurity posture or maturity across the entire defense industrial base. A snapshot based on self-assessment.
Okay, so 7019 is the self-score posting. What does 7020 add to the mix?
DFAR 7020 gives the DoD the actual teeth to verify that SPRS score. It's the government's permission slip to audit, essentially.
How so?
Clause 7020 explicitly authorizes the DoD, usually through DIBSAC, the Defense Industrial Base Cybersecurity Assessment Center, to conduct their own official NIST SP 800-171 assessments of contractor systems. It also grants DoD access to contractor facilities and systems for these assessment and verification purposes.
So that shifts the power balance quite a bit.
It definitely does. It moves away from purely relying on the contractor's self-attestation towards the DoD having the authority to check for themselves.
But the really fundamental shift, the one changing how defense contracting works from the ground up, is the Cybersecurity Maturity Model Certification, CMMC. That comes in via another DFARS clause, 252.2047021. This feels like the move from trust us, we're compliant, to prove it with a certificate.
That's a perfect summary. CMMC fundamentally changes the procurement landscape. It mandates that contractors must achieve and maintain a CMMC certification at a specific level, level 1, level 2, or level 3, as determined by the type of information involved in a particular contract.
So no certificate, potentially no contract?
That's the eventual reality, yes. The clause requires the certification as a condition for contract award in many cases. It verifies compliance before the work even starts.
What's really interesting here is we finally have a concrete timeline emerging. We've seen the CMMC final rule publication projected for around September 10th, 2025. What does that mean for contractors on the ground?
It means the starting gunfire soon. CMMC requirements are set to become legally effective 60 days after that final rule publication. So mark your calendars for November 10th, 2025.
November 10th, 2025. That's the effective date.
That's the effective date. However, it's not like a light switch flips for everyone instantly. The sources clearly indicate a phased implementation strategy. DoD plans to gradually roll out CMMC requirements in contracts over a period running through November 10th, 2028.
Okay, so a 3-year phase-in period. That gives the DIBA some breathing room to actually get certified.
Exactly. It provides a runway for companies to prepare, get assessed, and achieve the required certification level.
Let's quickly touch on the new assessment roles under CMMC. Who actually does the checking, the assessment at each level?
It varies by level. For CMMC Level 1, which aligns with protecting FCI using those basic FIR requirements.
The 15 controls, yeah.
Right, that remains a self-assessment. Companies affirm their compliance annually in SPRS.
Okay. What about Level 2? That aligns with protecting CUI using NIST 800-171.
For Level 2, it depends on the specifics of the contract. Some contracts might allow for self-assessment, again with an annual affirmation, but many, likely those involving more critical CUI, will require an assessment by a C3PAO.
C3PAO.
A certified third-party assessment organization. These are independent organizations accredited by the CMMC ecosystem to conduct these official Level 2 certification assessments.
Okay, so Level 1 is self, Level 2 is either self or third party. What about the highest level, Level 3?
Level 3 is different. Because it involves the most sensitive CUI and additional security controls, Level 3 assessments are conducted directly by the government, specifically by DIBCA.
DIBCA again. So the DoD handles the highest level assessments themselves.
Correct. Government assessors for Level 3.
That sets the stage perfectly for our final highest security tier. We called it the nuclear bunker level earlier. This is for the really, really sensitive stuff.
Exactly. This is a highly selective set of enhanced requirements. They're designed specifically to protect the most critical CUI from the most sophisticated adversaries. We're talking nation-state actors, advanced persistent threats, or APTs.
So if the 110 controls of NIST 800-171 were our robust main gate with strong locks and guards, then this next level, which I understand is covered by NIST SP 800-172, this is like the advanced counter-intrusion systems, the biometric scanners, the deep packet inspection, the armed guards on the roof.
That's a pretty good way to think about it, yeah. NIST SP 800-172 was published in 2021. It introduces these enhanced security requirements specifically tailored for defending against APTs.
What kind of things are we talking about beyond the 171 controls?
Things like significantly enhanced authentication methods, much deeper system monitoring and analysis, more sophisticated incident detection capabilities, things designed to catch those stealthy infiltration techniques that might slip past standard 800-171 defenses.
Now, what's the major caveat here? You mentioned it's highly selective. What's the scarcity hook that makes this level so rare?
The biggest thing to understand is that NIST SP 800-172 is not required directly by any current DFARS clause, like 1712.
So it's not automatically triggered just by having CUI.
No, it only applies conditionally. It comes into play if and only if a specific contract explicitly requires CMMC Level 3 certification, which happens via that new DFARS 7021 clause.
Yeah, only for CMMC Level 3 contracts.
Right. And even then, contractors aren't required to implement the entire 800-172 standard. It's not all or nothing.
Ah, so it's a specialized tool for very specialized threats applied selectively.
Correct. The DoD has specified a subset of just 24 enhanced security requirements drawn from 800-172 that constitute CMMC Level 3.
Only 24 practices on top of the 110 from Level 2.
Precisely. This really is the pinnacle of the current compliance stack. The estimates are that CMMC Level 3 will affect less than 1% of contractors in the DIB, only those handling the truly critical CUI related to high-priority programs. And remember, every single one of those Level 3 assessments is done by the government, by DIABC.
Wow. Okay, we have definitely climbed the mountain and mapped out all these layers for you. Let's just quickly recap that stack, make sure it's clear.
Good idea.
We started at the very foundation. CUI itself, defined by executive orders, with NARA as the executive agent setting the rules for everyone in 32 CFR 2002.
Check.
Then we built the first basic fence, protecting FCI, federal contract information, under the 15 simple requirements of FAR 52.20421. Applies to almost everyone.
Got it.
Then we fortified the main gate, protecting CUI under DFARS 252.2047012, which crucially pulls in the 110 security controls from NIST SP 800-171 Revision 2. Don't forget that 72-hour reporting rule.
What a point.
We saw the shift towards verification and accountability with SPRS scores required by DVARS 7019, DoD audit rights under 7020, and the coming mandate for CMMC certification via DFARS 7021.
The proof is coming.
And finally, we reached the nuclear bunker. The enhanced APT-focused protection of NIST SP 800-172 applied selectively as CMMC Level 3, just 24 extra controls, for less than 1% of contractors handling the most critical data assessed only by the government.
That stacks it up nicely. And maybe we just connect this to the bigger picture for a second.
Yeah.
Remember that this compliance stack, it's not static. It's still actively moving, still evolving.
How so?
We'll look at the ripple effects from Executive Order 140020, the big one from 2021 on improving the nation's cybersecurity.
Yeah.
While it wasn't strictly CUI focused, it's driving modernization across the entire federal ecosystem.
Right. Things like zero trust.
Exactly. The push toward mandatory zero-trust architectures, requirements for much more enhanced and centralized logging, efforts to secure the software supply chain, think software bills of materials, SBOMs, all these broader initiatives are influencing and shaping the environment that CUI lives in. Compliance today is definitely a marathon, not a sprint. It keeps changing.
Which brings us to a really important final thought for you, the listener, to maybe mull over as you're planning your resources and budgets for all this. Since we established that the narrow CUI registry is the single authoritative source for all CUI categories and subcategories, what impact do those precise narrow categorizations actually have on your organization's final bottom line compliance costs?
That's a fantastic question to ponder. Because think about it. The moment narrow officially defines one new type of information as CUI, or maybe just clarifies an existing category, your cost structure could change almost overnight. Because that single piece of data, once it's officially CUI, potentially triggers that entire complex 110 practice requirement of NIST 800-171 and DFARS 7012 for anyone who handles it.
So a seemingly small policy decision way up high at narrow.
Have massive compliance cost and effort ramifications for thousands of companies downstream. It really underscores how critical it is to track not just the security standards, but the data definitions themselves.
Absolutely. A lot to think about for sure. But hopefully now you have a much clearer blueprint to understand the scale, the layers, and the challenge ahead.
Hope it helped cut through some of the noise.
That's it for this deep dive. We really hope we've simplified your view of the compliance stack at least a little bit. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.